Hello and welcome to the Double Zero Challenge channel. We do just one thing on this channel, and that is to take these two dice and see how long it takes before we can roll a natural double zero. If you would like to play along, please write down your guess now. However, please don't disclose it in the comments. Let people watch the video and find out for themselves. There will likely be a few more things to explain as we go along, but let's get cracking. So, rule number one is a 0 and a 3. Remember, it doesn't count unless it's 0 on both dice. And number 2 is an 8 and a 6. And that's a 4 and an 8. And we have a 3 and a 5. And a 4 and a 2. A 7 and a 9. And that is a double 9. Now, it doesn't count as a win, but I will be taking account of all the doubles we encounter along the way just to see how consistent it is. The odds of rolling a double zero are 1 in 100. But let's carry on. And that is a 6 and a 1. And that is a 6 and a 3. And we have a 9 and a 2. A 4 and a 3. And we have a 7 and an 8. And that is a 9 and a 1. We have a 0, but we also have a 5, so it is null and void for our purposes. As we continue with a 0 and a 9, just checking my 6s and my 9s. And that's a 7 and an 8. And we have an 8 and a 4. And that is a double 5. Again, we'll take a note of that downstairs. And that is a 0, but it's a 3. As we crack on with roll 20. That is a 0 and a 6. And we have a 3 and a 1. Oops, don't do that. Escaping. And that is an 8 and a 6. We have a 4 and a 3. And that's a 6 and an 8. And we have an 8 and a 6 there. And a 6 and a 3. 2 and 8. And that is a 6 and a 2. And we have a 4 and a 5. And that is a 0 and it a 6. Okay, we carry on. And that is another 0 and a 6. And we have a 1 and a 4. That's a 4 and a 7. and it's a 3 and a 5. 1 and 4, and that's a 3 and a 1. 4 and a 2, and that's a 2 and a 3. Sometimes I have to remember I'm not a bingo caller. It's not 2 and 3, 23. Maybe we'll have bingo on this channel one day. I don't know how you do that, but let me think on it. A 3 and a 2, and that's a 3 and a 5. Remember, we're looking for double zeros only. And that's an 8 and a 7 with a slightly escaping dice. Thing about this is it rolls the dice very well, but they also like to pop out of it. And that's a 0 and a 9. It's actually a kitchen measure. It says 250 mils on it if you look. Can't see it on the camera, but yeah, perfect for my purposes. And that is a 7 and a 1. And we have a 5 and a 2. And that is a double 7. So let's mark that down. We have a 6 and a 4. We're approaching the 50 mark at the moment. That's a 2 and a 9. And at 50, we have a double-handed roll, a nice big one. But first, 3 and a 7. And that's a 6 and a 2. And number 50, making sure they don't escape, is a 5 and a 1. So we carry on for roll 100. And that's a 5 and a 9. And we have a 5 and a 9 again. That's a 3 and a 1. And a 4 and an 8. A 2 and a 6. And that's a 7 and a 1. Oh, it's a 0, but it's also a 1. And that's a 3 and a 5. And we have a 7 and a 3. That's an 8 and a 6. And we have a double 8, another one to sling on the pile. 0 but a 9. And that's a 3 and a 1. That is an 8 and a 1. And we have a 4 and a 6 there. 5 and a 6. And that's a 7 and a 3. A 6 and a 1. And that's a 5 and a 9. We have a 3 and a 2. And that's a 4 and an 8. A 4 and a 6. and a 4 and a 7. We have a 1 and a 6 there. I know it doesn't matter, but I do like to make sure my 6s and 9s are right. And a 6, but a 0. And that's a 2 and a 5. A 5 and a 6. And that's an 8 and a 1. We have a 0, but a 1 again. And an 8 and a 5. And that is a 9 and a 5. Dolly Parton's favourite numbers. A 0, but a 5 there. And that's a 7 and a 1. A 7 and a 1 again. And it's a double 0. The double we've been looking for. So let's count this up. So we've got 50, 60, 70, 80, 85 rolls. So that's slightly beat the odds of 1 in 100. And along the way, we got 4 doubles. So fewer doubles than you'd expect. But statistics, of course, do not normally reflect real life. Thank you so much for watching this video, and you take care.